guess I'll roam. Yeah, born to roam. Howdy everyone. My name is Joshua Franklin. Welcome to Hacker Summer Camp. It's been fun so far. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about my experiences in the election community for the past 10, 12 years. A little bit about how we got here, where we are going. First off, I'm going to start with this slide. There was a man named Dr. Joseph Harris back in 1934, and he was basically looking at how elections are run in the U.S. back then. And he actually found these various election fraud types, as he called them. And it's really interesting looking at this list, because we're still really, really worried about many of these issues today. We have, since 1934, learned a little bit about how computers work, and we've introduced e-voting, and what we've really seen is that now we have these same issues, but also modern electronic analogs to some of these same things. And so keep these in the back of your mind as we go through some of this. So who am I? Josh Franklin, IT security engineer at NIST. I typically do enterprise mobility, LTE security. I also do electronic voting. I've been in this area since probably 2004, working in voting off and on. I currently co-chair the NIST EAC election cybersecurity working group. Prior to NIST, I was working at the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, helping to test and certify voting systems. I got to travel the U.S. and really understand what the elections landscape looks like there. Previous to that, I was working at KSU's Center for Election Systems in Georgia. Learned a lot of things there, helped install and maintain probably 22,000 voting systems there. I have been a poll worker in more states than anyone I think has, and I will keep saying that until someone proves me otherwise. So yeah, and I have a master's in InfoSec from Mason. Get to know an agency. What big federal agencies are out there? Believe it or not, the Federal Election Commission has little to no role to play here. They are primarily focused on campaign finance law. The Election Assistance Commission is what you really want to be looking at here. They are charged with providing assistance to local election officials, adopting the voluntary voting system guidelines, and running a testing and certification program for U.S. voting machines. NIST is in this space. We provide the scientific and engineering backing for the voluntary voting system guidelines. DHS is a brand new entrant into this area. They are, basically helping local and state election officials with, cyber-related issues. And then, of course, the good old, FBI. They essentially prosecute domestic election crimes. At the state level, you have the Secretary of State's office. They are primarily the lead election officer, first and foremost, deciding how elections are run in their given state or territory. They're typically third in line in session in a state, so it's a fairly powerful elected position. And then at the local level, this is where basically elections are actually run. You have counties, cities, townships, parishes, hamlets, all these different really small geographical entities that really actually know how elections operate because they actually do them. So it's a little bit blurry. That wasn't just my pencil. On the right side, we actually have the voting machines that we all know and love. DREs, op scans, ballot marking devices. These are the voting systems that are actually in the voting hacking village. I was planning on pointing at them right now, but they're not here. So we have, in the top right, we have DREs. These are, basically voting systems that store ballot selections electronically. We have optical scan systems, which, read paper ballot selections, typically Scantron machines, but, modern ones are actually using computer vision algorithms to, figure out what's a vote. And then we have ballot marking devices. These are a nice hybrid between the two systems. They actually have a touchscreen interface, extremely usable, but they also have nice security properties of actually printing out a paper ballot. On the left side are basically all these other supporting election systems. These are things that there are not really best practices and guidelines and standards about, but they're actually, they're very, very instrumental in the election process. You have, local and online voter registration systems, electronic poll books. These are the things that you'll, check in with at your polling place. You have candidate filing systems. If you're gonna, run for governor, you have to file your information with your state at these candidate filing systems. There's also ballot tracking, there's poll worker tracking, there's just a whole slew of other supporting election systems. Here, you also have, campaign voter information databases. These are, fairly large scale, information and data collection, efforts, and they're actually holding a lot of really interesting information about all of us. And so when we're thinking about securing the election ecosystem, we actually need to have a larger palette there. This is just for people reading these slides later. Cool. So MapBlaze is right. We our whole threat model has changed since the 2016 general. Previously, we had a threat model that at least election officials did. There was a threat model about physically proximate attackers. In terms of intelligent adversaries, they're extremely worried about poll workers. Poll workers are one of the nation's largest temporary workforces, and poll workers aren't necessarily vetted. They to the degree that you would want. They often have privileged system access, passwords, and they have time to actually play around with these systems. Election officials are also extremely worried about accidental errors and events such as that. These are the things that more often than not will actually lead to an election, to an incorrect election outcome. Elections officials are extremely worried about accidental errors. Natural disasters, such as the 2012 Hurricane Sandy, I think it was 2012, that happened on the East Coast, definitely affected elections there. And just any real event that would impact public confidence and trust in the election system. But since 2016, we got the intelligence community report about meddling in our elections. And what we actually have evidence of now is basically nation-state attackers hitting our election systems. We haven't yet seen attacks against vote capture and tabulation systems, at least documented by the IC. But we also saw issues of phishing of both election officials and voting system vendors. And the new threat model is really everything in the old threat model plus cyber, right? So what do these voting systems actually look like? They are, embedded legacy systems. That's how I would, talk to someone about them today. They are typically running some Unix or Linux variant. They might have a custom kernel for some reason. Some of them are running Windows CE 3.0. That's what was run in Georgia when I was there. Some of them have really old, in proprietary physical media. I am 30. I should not know what a PCM CIA card is, but I do. That could be a problem there. So networking, wireless is a fairly common phenomenon. Infrared, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, cellular. Those are definitely things deployed in U.S. voting systems. And these things are basically needed to last for a long time. Many states are still using systems purchased in 2002, and there's not really a clear upgrade path there. And these systems really receive 1 to 5 updates over that whole lifetime. And these updates are extremely expensive when they have to update. For my first real job when I wasn't a student assistant anymore at KSU, I was basically made to go and physically insert a PCM CIA card into 6,000 touchscreen units across the state of Georgia to update an expired X.509 cert. It was really interesting. I got some stories from that. I'll just say that. Now that we've talked about what these systems actually look like, what sort of issues have we seen previously? You can look at some of the sources for our results at the very back of this. I will tweet out these slides after this presentation. But Barbara and David were talking about these independent reviews that we saw of these of U.S. voting systems, and it's really 15 to 20 independent reviews since probably 2004. So it's actually not a lot of outside scrutiny. And what NIST did recently is that we went through all these different papers, did a literature review, and looked at some of the various issues there, and we then mapped them to common weakness enumeration types, which is basically a standard for software bug types. Go figure, NIST-like standards, right? And so these were the top 5 software bug types that we saw. These were fairly common issues. I would say very, very common issues in the papers that we reviewed. And then just to up-level them a little bit, we basically saw a lot of input validation issues, crypto and authentication. So it's everything's not on fire, right? There are good things happening in the voting arena. Risk limiting audits. These have been really. I would go as far to say that this is the single best innovation we've had in election security since the year 2000. These are really meaningful statistical audits that are fairly efficient. They can be very, very practical, and they don't have to be extremely expensive. And so they can give an election official pretty good confidence in the election outcome without spending tons of money and time. Software independence. This is a concept championed in 2007-08, basically meaning that a bug in the software can't affect the election outcome. There's a better way to say it, and practically right now this means paper, paper voting systems. But this is the up-level concept that's more what desirable characteristics do we actually need in voting systems. There are proposals for completely software independent, fully electronic voting systems. These are called ETE verifiable cryptographic protocols. These are really cool systems that have not really been used on large scales yet, but they essentially give a voter a receipt that guarantees them that their vote was included in the final tally, but they can't sell their vote with that receipt. So it's really cool. Essentially, domain-specific crypto. These things have been they've been used in Tacoma Park, Maryland, and a couple of other places. There's definitely arguing about what constitutes this type of system. But it's definitely a really interesting research area and a potential path forward. And then finally, recognition of usability as a security issue is a big problem. Well, it's sort of a new thing in that the community finally said, well, you know what, if it's not usable, availability drops to 0. That can definitely affect the outcome, or at least the security of the voting system. And so NIST really likes software independence. We are including it in our recommendations for principles and guidelines for voting systems. But paper itself is not a panacea in elections. There are a number of physical security-oriented issues that can really affect the election outcome. Paper primarily gives you tamper detection and auditability, which is awesome. It's super great. But paper can be modified. It was a very common thing for a long time for whoever is counting ballots to put a little piece of lead underneath their fingernail, and if there's not a filled-in bubble, fill in that bubble real fast. There are just non-cyber security related issues. Seals and chain of custody need to be verified. If you're not going to actually look at the paper trail, why have it? This routine, meaningful audits need to be performed. You can't just have paper. You have to actually do something with it. And then, just generally, we need to up the level of cyber hygiene in this area. So we're doing pretty good on time. Okay. Testing and certification. What does this process look like? Basically, the Election Assistance Commission runs a testing and certification program for voting systems. There are multiple layers of testing and certification. The EAC performs a federal certification, and then states do their own testing for their own needs. Some states have rules that are like you should be able to click straight ticket. The whole system then selects all D or all R, but then you should be able to choose one other person in the other area. It's like the Pennsylvania cross vote is what people call it, and there's just tons of state-specific voting logic issues that states are testing for. What does this actually look like? This is at a high level. Vendors submit an application to be tested. The EAC, a third-party lab, and then the manufacturer sit down. They figure out essentially a testing contract. It's a test plan. Testing occurs. If there are issues, which I've never seen a testing campaign that doesn't have at least one issue. The vendor goes back, makes a change, and then it gets tested again ad nauseum. At the end of the testing process, there's a test report. The EAC then says, yes, I would like to certify, or no, I don't want to certify. If they do certify, then a voting system goes into their quality monitoring program where states and labs and manufacturers and everyone gives EAC information about how that performance, how that system is performing in the field. I'm gonna go back a slide for a second and say, if you're really interested in knowing more technical information about voting systems, EAC.gov is literally the best place. They have a test plan and test reports section, and they have information on new voting systems that aren't really out there yet. A lot of the systems that EAC has certified, at least to the newer standards, aren't necessarily deployed in the field yet, or if they are, it's only in limited areas. This is an excellent resource that they're doing a serious boon for this community. In terms of voting standards, the Voluntary Voting System Guidelines, it's an awesome name for a standard, right? VVSG. These standards are primarily for vote capture and tabulation systems, so nothing about voter registration, nothing about electronic poll books, election night reporting. There is no federal law mandating that every system apply with these standards. There just isn't. The way elections work in the U.S. is that it's typically the time and manner of choosing is left open to states, and so that's the same here. In that states can use completely federally certified systems, systems that are only partially certified. There's tons of variations out there. In terms of security, just in general, these are the various voting standards as I see them. The 1990 VSS and 2002 voting system standards, these things were made not necessarily by the federal government, and it wasn't until the Election Assistance Commission was created in 2002, I think, that we actually got the modern VVSG. The modern VVSG has a whole section on security. Didn't really even have that previously that much. And there's been large changes in security as new standards have been made. But most systems in the U.S. are still certified to the 2002 VSS or 2005 VVSG, and it's mostly 2002 VSS. But yeah, in 2007, NIST made some recommendations for next generation voting systems. There was like a really robust security architecture that was recommended because of some various issues such as software independence and penetration testing. Those were not eventually adopted. And so what folks did is they took parts out of the 2007 and parts out of the 2005, smushed them together. You got the 2015. And so, yeah, that's the most recently adopted standard. NIST and EAC right now are actually working on a complete, it's basically a completely different way of looking at election standards, and we're basically having it's basically driven by outside input by voters and concerned citizens, and we're putting together these next generation requirements. This new structure is going to have principles, guidelines, requirements, and test assertions. Principles and guidelines are ultimately going to be what's adopted by the federal government, and then the requirements and test assertions are going to be a little more malleable because what we've really seen is that there's been a lot of changes, and sometimes folks get really locked into certain requirements, and it doesn't really help to be locked into requirements from 5 or 10 years ago. From a security perspective, I'm co-chairing this working group on in this area. These are the 7 high-level principles that we have listed. Each of these has a number of sub-guidelines. They're all available at the NIST and EAC voting Twiki. A couple of things I'll sort of point out under auditability, which is the single most important principle that the whole group felt really, really strongly about. Software independence is included under that. Under access control, we have things like two-factor authentication for privileged election operations. For data protection, we have using well-vetted, publicly available, and standardized crypto, which is really, really nice. For software integrity, which we're changing to system integrity, We have things like only digitally signed code can actually run on a voting system. If you want to talk about these later, I'll be around. So just to, before we get to questions and stuff, these are some of the big things that I think really need to be addressed. We need routine, meaningful audits. I think that is a really important concept that needs to be enshrined here. We need regular external scrutiny of voting systems. It is absolutely key. The more folks who can take a look at these, I am of the opinion, the better. But when folks do find issues, there needs to be responsible vulnerability disclosure. Do not release a freaking 0 day a week before the election. Just don't. There are well-known. Essentially, if you have issues, if you find an issue, talk to the EAC, talk to DHS. And yes, if you want to make my Monday morning bad, you can send it to me too. That's perfectly fine. So I think that we need to augment how we really manage election security. I think risk assessment, threat modeling, contingency planning need to be common terms for elections officials, and I think that they need to be pretty knowledgeable in these concepts. Voting systems need regular software updates, just like anything. We need to figure out how to get voting systems regular software updates. I think it is untenable to have voting systems with CBSS score 10, right? With 50 of those on a voting system. That's just unacceptable. We need to find a way how to fix that. And then election officials need actionable guidance. You can't just go yell at them and say, do this, do this. It's not really going to help any body. They need to, they need guidance in the language that they speak. So you have to help speak their language. They are typically not cybersecurity experts. Election officials are basically logistics champions. They do a really complex operation, and everything's all happening at one time. Then finally, I'll basically stop here. So help make a difference. Many of you came, means that you seem to at least care a little bit. Go register and actually vote. Don't let apathy hurt the overall system. Be a poll worker. This is extremely important. It will really change how you look at elections, and this is how you can affect change in your local area. And local elections are the elections that will actually have an impact in your life in a fairly large way, fairly quickly. Work with your election official, not against them. Don't antagonize them. Help out. Be a force for good. And then just completely in a self-serving manner, join these public working groups. We're fairly nice people. Thanks everyone. Mary and I are here for questions.
You mentioned joining public working groups to help local election officials. If you could tell us how to access those.
So are you bringing up the reference?
Yeah.
So there's a set of 7 working groups. There's 3 election groups. There's for pre-election, election, post-election, and there's 4. We call them constituency groups because they're there to sort of help support the elections, but they're human factors, so usability, accessibility, cybersecurity, interoperability, where a lot of the common data format work is being played out, and testing. So you can follow a link that maybe is not coming up, or the easy way. The easy way would be to go to vote.nist.gov, and there's a link off that page to the working groups, to the Wiki itself, and on there's information about how to set up an account and how to actually join the mailing lists. And there's a bunch of pretty simple videos that you can follow. And if you have any questions, just ask us.
Yeah, definitely. I'll shoot them out in a moment.
Yeah, I was just saying, just on Twitter.
Cool.
So, how are you addressing resiliency in terms of just maintainability and continued function as a security threat, and how you're staying on the standards or how you're doing these things? It seems like there's a bigger threat from DDoS by device failure in elections than there is from actual tampering with machines. We encountered a lot of that in the last election in Maryland, where many optical scanners died during the election, and votes were left piled up, and in some cases unattended while voting machines were running or the scanners weren't working. So, how do we address the actual ease of operation and continued use as part of the security model in these times?
That's a great question. We do have a maintainability-oriented principle that is, going to be in, we only saw 7 of the actual principles. There's a whole list of other principles as well. A lot of, the answers there are, going to be about build quality, quality assurance. There are, programs that the EAC has, looking into quality assurance areas. But some of that is going to be on the election official themselves to make sure that they're taking, good care of their election system. I definitely think that manufacturers play a role there as well, and not using bottom of the barrel components. I personally think I'm a big fan of COTS in voting systems, commercial off the shelf. I would be a pretty big fan of like a non-networked voting system, running on like a tablet or Raspberry Pi that just prints a ballot right there. That way, if the actual voting system breaks down, you can just go, buy another one at Staples or something. That's resiliency and maintainability are really important questions. Somehow these systems are still working for the most part since 2002. Always kind of, it's kind of amazing. Hope that helps.
Thank you very much. 2 very quick questions. Number 1, are any of the efforts to update the VVSG going to take into account not just voting systems, but also non-voting systems? No? Okay. Is EAC planning to address that issue as well? So the databases and the election management systems?
I can't talk for the EAC.
Is NIST?
As of right now, we are focused on vote capture and tabulations.
Okay. And then to the extent that a lot of counties just aren't going to be able to replace their machines, is the problem that we cannot technically update these software systems, or is the problem that we just don't do it? Updating voting system software. I mean, it costs sometimes over $1 million to get a voting system certified. Yes, and so if even one software update occurs, then there needs to be a new certification process. Now, the second layer certification process, that second order process, doesn't have to be a full $1 million process. Typically, it can be really, really small. I think that the EAC has gotten those done in like 2 or 3 months in my experience. But then a local election official would have to pay for those software updates typically. Folks want you to, buy the, latest version of an app sometimes, right? I mean, that's a very common thing, and just elections aren't the most well-funded operations.
Let me just add a little bit to that. The EAC, prior to embarking on this effort to update the voluntary voting system standards, led a group of folks that came up with some principles for moving forward, how we can use with the principles and guidelines. And one of the areas that they really do want to figure out what to do about is how can we update the software. So it's in our minds. We don't yet have a solution because it's, you know, we really sort of have to look at the testing process and how it would feed into the testing process and what it costs and, you know, how this all works. So if you have ideas,
Talking to the mic.
The voting is the domain of the states by Constitution. So the best that this can do is to set standards, correct? Is to set a standard, and then the federal government can provide to the states money to assist the voting system, correct? Am I talking to the? Okay.
You're good.
Okay, good. I just wanted to ask Bill, you may not want to be speaking on behalf of NIST, but could you sort of share with us what your ideal voting system would be, given the Constitution, the way that the voting works in this country, and also part two of that, maybe not speaking for NIST again, do you think that there has been widespread voter registration fraud?
Okay, so for my ideal voting system, I'm gonna have to say I'll see you after class, because that hasn't been approved by NIST management. Happy to talk to you out there.
Okay, so it was a multi-part question. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's up to the states to determine whether or not they want to adopt the VBSG, and this is normally handled within the legislature, within the state legislature. So some states, you know, require certification require the use of certified systems. Some require the use of systems that are certified by a lab, but not necessarily by EAC, that are tested by a lab and certified, but not necessarily by the EAC. Some require you to certification to the VBSG. They might run their own state-sponsored programs to do that. So you're absolutely right. We can set the standards, you know, but we can't necessarily impose them, you know, on the states. I'm not really sure what to say about my ideal voting system. Because nothing's been approved by my management either, and I can't really comment on voter fraud. I mean, it's sort of kind of outside our area of expertise, one of the things that we look at.
Can you just yell to the microphone?
Sure. You've outlined some really good principles here. You've got patches and compliance, some open source, general public compliance. But if the states are not required to use them, if the states don't have to do anything, why does it matter at all? And how can we force them to have some modicum of compliance, to at least the baseline?
So let me just say that although the states are not required to use, there was a recent study done by NCSL, I always forget what that stands for, National Conference of State Legislatures, that indicates that 47 out of the 50 states do actually adhere to one of those areas, either use either certified systems, certified by lab, or to the VBSG, or somewhere, even if they don't use those words, they use other words that that apply it. So I do think that the majority of the states do actually want help. They're looking for help. They're looking for advice. Certainly, there were quite a number of them that voluntarily signed up for some of the cyber hygiene services that were available via DHS. So I think they're listening. The election officials don't want to be hacked. They want the elections to be secure. They want to be assured that the integrity of the election is certainly withheld.
You go as well.
Yeah. So in the public statements, we're hearing about the security of voting systems. What we keep hearing over and over again is they're not connected to the internet, therefore they're secure and they can be hacked. And you talked about wireless and other connectivity. So just ignoring a Stuxnet type attack, there's also acknowledgement of other types of connectivity. You can use cellular, it could bleed over to an internet connection, which is common these days. So can you square that circle for me? Or can it be squared?
What exactly are you trying to square there? I mean, like,
I'm
I
trying
don't
to
think we,
square the public comments about the system not being exposed or connected to the internet.
have we said that?
No, no, no.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying this. I'm not saying this. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. No, no.
I'm talking about the public statements that have been talked about voice.
Yeah, I mean, so we can be, I mean, so, you know, an air gap is definitely a, you know, powerful mitigation, right, for preventing remote attacks. Yeah, I mean, states are, you know, going to have to make that sort of choice themselves. Then, you know, if they actually want to have wireless or, you know, wired, you know, networking at all, that's going to be a choice up to them. I mean, yeah.
I'm not really sure what you're looking for us to say. I mean, I guess what you're saying is on one hand, there are public comments saying that we're not connected, and we're standing here in front of you saying, you know, you got all of
That's
this.
what I'm
You know,
trying to figure out.
yes, I mean, all of these, you know, it's Josh is absolutely right. It depends on the state. It depends on, you know, is the state, you know, looking for a certified system, or are they not? You know, it's, you know, the manner in which they conduct elections is really up to the state. We don't have any control over what's said in public. You know, the only thing we can do is do our research and make it, you know, make it available.
I'm not clear. Is it possible for you to certify the absence of black doors without being able to inspect the source code?
So we don't actually do the certification at NIST. The voting system test laboratories go through the actual voting systems, and there's a series of tests that they run. The tests are developed by the voting system test laboratories, although we provide guidance into what they should be. And one of the things that the voting system test laboratories do have is access to source code. And you know, all of the systems that that undergo that testing undergo a source code review.
To anticipate the next panel, I just want to clarify on the law professor teaches election law. It is not true that the states constitutionally have control over our election systems and operations. The U.S. Constitution provides that the states shall, until and unless Congress chooses to intrude and set other standards. So in other words, it is a tradition which we can rethink and reallocate at virtually any time we choose to through our elected representatives. So let's just keep in mind that.
Oh, thank you. That's interesting. So we'll wait and see what Congress does. No, I did.
Mike can research, so.
Okay, so since January and the Department of Homeland Security's decision to decide that voting systems, are critical infrastructure, right? So January they decided, okay, voting systems are now critical infrastructure. How is it that they're critical infrastructure, yet the EAC, the federal entity that oversees voting systems, has no teeth, in essence, and that some states still do not have to abide by the voluntary voting system guidelines. When will the voluntary, the first V in that VVSG be dropped, since we now know that they are critical infrastructure? Wisconsin is one of your 3 states that in its statutes says it does not have to and will not only use certified machines. So it's a big issue, and Wisconsin's a swing state. And they're not interested in changing their voting systems. They like having that control. So what's your opinion of when we'll drop that first V?
Exactly.
I think Candace is right. Talk to your congressman or woman. We have no control over dropping that first V. I haven't really heard serious proposals about doing that either. Just haven't heard them discussed at all.
Let's talk about two more.
Yeah, I'll come up, get the microphone. I'm an activist, and I've been doing it for many years, and I thank you for your presentation. But I take exception with a few things, okay? I take exception with the EAC when they certify something like virtual private networks, and I go into a court case, and the head guy of Wisconsin says, how could you let these virtual private networks be set up? Because we know most fraud is done by insiders, okay? One person, and he says, hey, I wasn't me, it was certified by the EAC, okay? And when you look at those guidelines, okay, you know, when they passed the Help America Vote Act, there was no security standards until 2005. $2 billion is spent on these crap machines, is what they really were, okay? You know, I get very frustrated when an elections administrator says to me, we know it's working really well. We did a logic and accuracy test before and after. Well, I know when that test was done, it probably worked right. All you gotta remember is Volkswagen, my God, they passed 600,000 tests. The machine was rigged to pass. You buy a flat screen TV, says it's high energy efficient, okay? You plug in the tester, the screen goes dim. It cheated. We need systems that are transparent, trackable, publicly verified. You know, the stuff that comes out of the EAC just blows my mind of how inept, you know, I don't think they even had a chair of that committee for what, 6 years or something like that? I mean, what are we to do, the voters? To know that we live in a country that makes believe that we're that other country. We know how fraction magic works. We know how the systems are set up. And then to be insulted with these virtual private networks being set up and have somebody, like I said, in court stand up and say, well, gee, we didn't certify it, the EAC did. Thank you.
So I think everything you just, talked about is sort of really shows the need for, outside external scrutiny, regularly. I think that is a powerful force. This is a large collection of examples of basically outside scrutiny. It definitely provides a check against the certification process.
One more question. Yeah, a lot of people have said that because our election voting system is so fractured, in a weird way, that's actually a cause of security. Because yes, you have standardized vendors who are generally making most of the machines, but the attack vector, somebody searching for attack vector doesn't know what state of patching they're at, what security they're running, how they're actually doing that, and where they're at in their updating process. If we go through a standardized process, are we creating a perverse chance of decreasing security by standardizing across vectors? Standardizing attack vectors and assets?
Good question. Yeah. So the actual standards that we're going to be, making are basically going to be vendor agnostic, and so any number of vendors can submit their systems for certification, and so we would still have that that nice diversity.
There's a diversity of vendors,
Yeah.
but not a diversity of how individual vendors have their machines configured at tens of thousands of precincts, which is what we have now.
Yeah. I mean, I do like the voting system diversity. I do think it is a serious boon. But I mean, if you look on the internet, I mean, you're going to be able to find operating system versions and patch levels in a lot of places. And so I just don't want to put too much emphasis on that. I think things like software independence and regular meaningful audits are a much more stronger security mechanism to make our overall system more secure. To be honest with you. Yeah.
So one more thing, after these guys wrap up, I do want to give them a round of applause. But so we've already had our first two successful breaches in the voting village. A win vote was wirelessly hacked with remote access already, and an e-poll book internal data structure was already hacked, and that was about 20 minutes ago. So an hour and 40 minutes in, and we've already got our first 2 successful hacks. So,
Yeah. Thank you.
okay, and a round of applause for these guys. They did a great job.
Yeah.